Welcome back to the Search for Meaning podcast. I myself, Julio Calcina, your host, and today we do have a very special guest, very special to me. She's so special and very significant in what she does, and her name is Innate. And she is the founder of Ankh Healing and Hypnotherapy. I will let her introduce herself and explain in further depth than I could about what she does. And this podcast is sure going to be very inspiring, as she was a huge inspiration for me as I was making huge transformations in my life. And I will let Yvette take us through what she does and give us some amazing insights into her wisdom and experience. So without further ado, the Search for Meaning podcast, here we go.
Hello.
Hi there, Yvette. You okay?
I'm good, thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I am absolutely amazing, and it's such a pleasure to have you on as a guest. I'm so thankful that you've made it.
Oh, my pleasure. All mine. So how are you?
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I am doing absolutely amazing. And, this is a special one to me, Innette, because you were my first point of contact from when I started my own personal journey of healing. And you mentioned so much stuff to me back then, and it didn't make sense. But then later on, I was like, oh, now I actually see the relevance of this. And mainly it was what I'm kind of referring to was when you talked about my age, because I was 33 at the time, and you said the number 33 holds quite a huge significance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regarding huge change. And yeah, it's been everything you mentioned. Like, it's just the way everything has unfolded has just been fantastic.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So how are you doing anyway?
I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely great. So, of course, gosh, I can't remember. I remember elements of the session that I did for you, elements of them. But of course, because I do so many a week, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever a week, it's quite difficult to remember the key elements of them all. However, what I do always know is that I trust the soul implicitly. So I know that anybody that comes to see me, their superconscious, their higher self on a completely different level has put them on my path. And whatever happens in the session, whatever the client sees, hears, feels, experiences, on some level, they are absolutely ready for that. So I had no doubt in my mind that whatever you were about to experience, even if you thought you were coming to see me for an entirely different reason, whatever at that point you experienced was what your soul needed to get on that path of evolution, to get on that path of expansion. And I'm absolutely certain that's what would have happened. I would love to, I wish my ego was big enough to say, I did this, I did that. But actually, what I'm blessed to be is, there's no mistake that my surname's Sheppard. I absolutely believe I'm a guide, I'm a shepherd. And what my aim to do within all sessions, whether it's hands-on healing that I'm doing, whether it's hypnosis or manifestation work, is to literally guide that person to be their shepherd. But it's really, really important to me that what I do is I empower the client. So I never want to take their power away from them. I never want to say that I did this, I did that, that's not true. What I do is guide you to a point where you can experience whatever it is that you need to experience, or perhaps even see things from a different perspective, which then allows you to hold that power to make the changes that you need to make. And sometimes you might see or listen to people that say that they are doing the healing, that they remove these entities and spirits, but that's not true. All we ever do is that we guide the client to do that. in a very safe
Yeah.
space. And that's important, because when you first start, I don't always like to use the term awaken, but when you first start to become more aware consciously, it can be quite a scary space, can't it? You know, when you first go down a rabbit hole, good Lord, you think that's how can that possibly be true? That this stuff is happening in the world? How can it be that the way that we've been taught and what we thought we knew probably isn't true? You know, and then to be able to open your awareness and consciousness to a point where actually the world could be a very different place and is a very different place, but you have to see it from many different perspectives. But the key is, without allowing it to lower your consciousness significantly, is getting that balance between seeing what's happening and being aware of it, knowing that. And I think the biggest thing is knowing that it's not all on your shoulders. You know, all the negative things, aspects that have been happening on the planet for so long, you know, there are billions, most likely, people that are all helping to heal this, you know. So when
Yeah.
you first fall down a rabbit hole and learn about something, whether it's the dumbs under the ground, the, you know, the child trafficking, whatever, all of that, it's very easy initially to think, my God, what can I do about it? What can I possibly do? And it's only when you step back a little way and see it for what it is, not allowing it to alter our frequency. Because if we do, then our frequency drops. It'll plummet into fear and anger and rage. And actually, you can't expand and have awareness from that perspective. You have to, of course, acknowledge that you feel those emotions and transmute them and get them out, but then to do something in a very positive way, you know? So how have you experienced all of that side of the awakening?
So you definitely guided me to meet in myself, to
Hmm.
trust my inner voice,
Yes.
and so that's what I've been working with, and just been allowing everything to unfold naturally without much resistance, just with that awareness of, okay, this is going to it's making me feel this way, but instead of reacting it and reacting and projecting it out onto the world, I can I've learned how to healthily transmute and project my emotions in a safe space.
Yes. Yeah.
And the since coming to see you was, I thought I had traumas from growing up, but really I've done a lot of self reflection, and it's not mainly traumas that I had, but it was an inability to um to allow my emotions to be expressed in a healthy way. Sometimes certain emotions would come up, and instead of like allowing it to be expressed and release it, um, I would hold on to it, and it ends up self-sabotaging myself. So yeah, it's just been a great understanding of myself. So instead of like trying to look outside and change everything externally, I've changed myself
And
within,
yeah.
and all of a sudden the things around me following suit. Basically, I wouldn't say following suit, but I can see it from a different perspective,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is not all that bad.
I think one of the key things when so a few years ago now, sort of a year and a half, 2 years ago, along with my daughters, we wrote a book, The Power of Three: Remembering the Tools of Creation. And what's really important is that when we're manifesting, you know, it's okay saying, you know, stay in high frequency, do this, do that. But we have one foot in 3D whilst, you know, working on Ascension and having one foot over in 5D and higher. And so it's very important that we don't just take on this mindset that everything is all roses and butterflies and fairies and all wonderful. Yes, that's what we're manifesting. But if something is triggering you, if something is making you feel a strong emotion, it's really important to feel it and not just suppress it, not just think, no, 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 everything's fine, because everything might not be fine at that point in time. And again, I trust the soul implicitly. If something has happened that's made you feel anger or rage or resentment, any of those low frequency emotions that contract the biofield in, so that actually you can't manifest as well as you should be able to. You're just attracting those low frequency emotions. It's important to feel it, you know, and actually being in anger and rage it's much better than some of the much lower emotions that you can feel, of jealousy and envy and, you know, all those sorts of things. So it's important to feel it, figure out why you're feeling it, where does that come from, sit with it, because it probably isn't the situation that's just created that anger. It probably is a memory from either childhood or even further back in time, where we call it a past life, but essentially past lives aren't a thing. Everything is happening simultaneously. So this is when my work comes in as a hypnotherapist, in that, you know, we might say, you know, this is Julio's beautiful tree, and this is our creator, and this is your branch here. And these little twigs that are coming off, they're all the lifetimes that you're having simultaneously right now. Now, if you've got a problem, so this is your lifetime here, but if you've got a problem along this lifetime that has got something that's very unresolved, then you'll get a bleed through into this life. And then you can be triggered or get this strong emotional, this strong emotion, and it might be around one person, but in that other lifetime or that other timeline, you might be having huge issues with them that you need to sort out. You know? They might have just murdered you or cheated on you, or I don't know, just pulling things out the top of my head, but things that will have a strong emotional reaction. And then you come into this lifetime, you're on this timeline, and you're trying to make a go of it with a relationship, and it doesn't matter what you do, this is not working out. But it could be because healing needs to be done along that timeline there, you know, to allow you to release that. It's very multifaceted and very complex. And this is where I never make assumptions. You know, if somebody comes to me with an issue, I can, you know, think about things, and I've got all the metaphysical books and all that, but I never know where a client is going to go with it. I never make assumptions that just because they had a difficult childhood, that's even where the problem lies. It might not do. It might lie further back than that. And it's trusting the soul and knowing that the soul doesn't malfunction. It doesn't. If you've got a physical manifestation of dis-ease, then your soul is speaking to you. You know, for example, if your hips start to become uncomfortable, if your knees or feet, for me, that's telling me that you're not moving forward along your path in some way. You know, because we use these limbs to move forward. If somebody, I remember having clients that have hands that are stiff, you know, can't open them. My first thought is, what's the soul telling you? What can't you let go of? You know, because it's literally telling you, what can't you let go of? If your back's sore or hurting, depending on which part of the back it is, will tell you whether you've got financial concerns, whether the burden's too heavy. You know, when people say the weight of our shoulder, you know, too much weight on your shoulders, that's a really good saying, because quite often this will hurt and become sore if literally your soul feels that, you know. And it's important to listen to the soul, to those whispers, because if we don't, the soul gets louder and louder and will scream. You know, a lot of people will jog off to the Western medicine side, to the doctors, and say, you know, my back's sore, you know, can I what do I get? And they'll get pills to mask that pain, but then the body has to scream, you know. And there might be a physical reason that people are feeling that discomfort, but you could have 100 people doing a physical job, and if there's only a couple of them that are having pain in their back, why? What is that? And for me, when I work with people, what I've discovered is that the superconscious will tell you, you know, it's that they're worried, they're concerned about money. And often it's the lower part of the back, that belt, where you'll get discomfort there if people have concerns. Now, those concerns might come from a lifetime in the 14th century, where they got all the taxes in, or whatever they did in the 14th century, and they didn't have any money. That might be where the money concern comes from. It might not even be in this lifetime, you know. So it's very interesting.
So it could be as well, like like generational trauma that's been passed down
Yeah.
through the bloodline, could that could also
Yes.
be a possibility,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. And that can, again, that can manifest even as dis-ease, or it can manifest as problems. I find the ancestral trauma, that's incredible. When I'm working with somebody, when we ask the soul or the superconscious to go back to the root cause, the origin of a specific problem, you know, when it's ancestral, that person is literally taking not only their power back, but healing that whole ancestral line. It's the most incredible thing to experience. It really is, you know. You can get hexes, curses. You know, people think of these things as, oh, you know, that's witchcraft in times gone by. That is not true. That is not true. It's as easy to curse somebody or to make a vow today as it was in the 12th century. It's literally, I've had clients that I can think of a lady that many years ago that she was in France, and they were on a boat, and a lady, a British lady, cursed them, because again, you think of curses as being out in the Middle East or some other countries where perhaps
Yeah,
they're, you know, and this lady outright cursed them in front. And this woman, as try as she might, she could not move forward. And it was only when, in fact, she had two curses. One was from that lady. And of course, it's all energy. So when you curse somebody, it's the word, spell, spelling, you're casting that spell.
spells.
And as a witch, I absolutely know how to do these things, but I work within the light. You know, I don't dabble with that, know how to, but absolutely wouldn't. We located the energy, and when we transmuted it out, that's important not to throw it back. Otherwise, you end up in a game of ping pong where the energy is just going backwards and forwards. She also had, excuse me, and this was an ancestral from her great great grandmother, who this was, I'm trying to remember now, I think it was a curse of poverty. And the great 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 grandmother, way back, had refused to buy heather from a gypsy. And that's where the curse had come in. Now, at that point, my guide said, tread carefully, Yvette, tread very carefully. And, you know, I can remove all sorts of dark entities and work with different energies. And we had to haggle a little bit. And this lady, of course, you have a finite amount of energy per day that we use as in these bodies. And the lady, the gypsy, was prepared to remove the curse for us. But she wanted energy of that day, not the woman's power, just a certain amount of her energy, with the promise that if ever one of her ancestors graced their doorstep again, that they would buy the heather. Because at the time, you see, that woman, that was her source of income. That was the way that she, you know, could buy bread, could buy something, and to be knocked back by this woman's ancestor, that really upset her. And she knew her power. She cursed that woman. But what had happened, it had come down the ancestral line. So that was important. And we removed that. And that woman went on then to be, you know, just have money flowing in freely then, which was excellent.
Yes. So when we talk about getting curses put onto people, with
Uh-huh.
my understanding based on this, I know everything is energy, frequencies, and also this also comes down to the manifestation.
Mm,
If I'm correct, right? And whoever puts the curse obviously has that intention and a
yep,
strong belief,
they
which
do.
is which makes the manifestation stronger with the belief, and then for the
Absolutely.
person receiving it as well, they
Has to believe
accept it
it.
by
Yeah,
believing. So
they do.
it's an energy exchange
It is. It is. You've hit the nail on
that we
the head.
don't see.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. So that's exactly what it is. So it's that belief that it was possible. And it was that
Mm,
belief that carried down the ancestral line. You know, whether my lady believed in curses or not made no difference, because that came down the bloodline. For me, do I believe anybody can curse me? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My shields are so strong, it would deflect back and you'd end up in a sorry mess if you tried to. Absolutely. Do I believe I can curse somebody? You're damn right I can. And because I believe that, absolutely, the person I'm doing it to would absolutely believe it. I wouldn't. Let me just reiterate that. I absolutely would not, because I believe what you put out into the universe is woof, it's
You get back.
just going to reflect back. And I'm not going there. I've done it many lifetimes as a witch, and we're not doing that this time. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the same with entities, really, and attachments, you know. I can see people, and again, I hear a lot of people, you know, I'm removing these from people, and I can remote view. It's a skill that I've remembered, and I'm able to do that. But again, I would far sooner somebody have a hypnosis session where I'm guiding them to see if they have entities attached, what they've got attached, what it might be an earthbound entity, an ET, or a demonic force entity, or whatever. But it's important that the client sees whatever it is, knows why it's attached, what it's been doing, how it's been making them feel. And just with me guiding, the client then can transmute it up and out and send it to wherever it needs to go, whether it's going home to source, or whether it's going back to soul family, or in front of a council, whatever. That's really important to do that. However, again, your attachments, it comes down to, and I don't often get clients like this, but occasionally I'll have a client that is continually attracting them, but that is their belief. That has to be their belief in order to bring that into their reality. And until they can take their power back, yes, there are practices that we do. We need good spiritual hygiene. I make sure my clients are extremely protected. There's protection over the house. But again, this is manifesting. So for me, doing these rituals tells my subconscious and every energy around me, this is protected, get out. If I invite somebody into my house that has an attachment, under law, that's fine. I've invited the attachment in to remove it. But again, we're working with energy. We can give those energies any names we want, whether that's a dark force entity or earthbound, whatever, to help them over. But when it comes to the attachment, you have to stand in your power and know that you don't get attachments, because that strengthens and amplifies your bioenergetic field, The only caveat to that is if somebody goes through trauma or sadness, because of course that lowers your frequency.
Drops the frequency.
Yeah. And it's that lowering of the frequency that can sometimes allow, because then you become a vibrational match to these lower energies and entities. That's where they can get in. That can also be to do with substances, alcohol, things like that. I know people don't like it when I say that, but alcohol does lower your frequency, So if you were to take alcohol, you would only do it. This is me personally. I would only do it if I was exceptionally in a good high frequency, because consciously I know that the alcohol is going to slightly lower my frequency, but I have to be in a safe level where I'm not allowing any energies to get access to my field. But again, you're right. It comes down to your perception, what you believe. If you believe you can get off your trolley on alcohol and not get any attachments or lower your frequency, then good on you. But I don't know anybody that does that.
Yeah. From my own experience, because when I came to see you, I was heavily in
Medicated,
self-sabotaging with alcohol, and I cannot get shit-faced and think, oh, it's going to be a good night, because once I'm on that level playing field of alcohol and I'm drunk, bad decisions just happen from then, and then you're just open and so susceptible to just negativity. Even my frame of mind is just it's horrible. It's so horrible.
Absolutely.
But you have to be able to experience it, but to have a level of self-awareness and that conscious awareness to really pay attention to what your body is saying, because our body speaks to us through our emotions. It's trying to highlight something. We just have to take time to pay attention, ask the right questions, welcome it, and see what it wants. And because they say to heal you have to feel and release.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. That's really important. And again, going back to the manifestation and creation and things like this, often I'll find that clients can, it's much easier, I think, to suppress it, isn't it? Suppress it and just alcohol or whatever else you can put a sticking plaster on it. And sometimes I'll see clients when they're well into their 50s, 60s, and then it starts to bubble up to the point where they can't stop it. And I think, I would never judge anybody, seriously, would never, because often that's why those substances, whether it's alcohol or smoking or weed or things that are stronger, doesn't matter. It's just used as a sticky plaster for something that is unhealed, and it's only when that person comes to that realization, they understand that, okay, I'm taking this because there's an emotion that I haven't been ready to heal. And in some respects, I think, if people choose to use Western medicine, it's the Western system that's let them down. If they've been through things in their life and they haven't got the help, they haven't got the support to be able to process those emotions in the way that their soul needs to, then of course they're going to reach out for the easiest thing to deal with it, to suppress.
Yeah.
Then you've got this duality, two problems. Then I see clients where, right, okay, I know I've got this problem, however, now addicted to alcohol as well. And it's not when somebody contacts me and says, I'm addicted to alcohol or smoking or heroin or whatever, cocaine. It's not just going in and telling the subconscious, hey, stop smoking, stop drinking. Of course, that's never going to work. What you have to do, firstly, is deal with the emotion. Why are you doing that? I want your soul to tell me why. Where's that memory that your soul needs to heal? Let's get to that. Let's deal with that. And then once we've dealt with that, well, that's the big chunk of your healing out the way. If we can get rid of the reason why you're doing it, brilliant. And then we look at, now we've got a physical addiction because that's been created. But of course, depending on whether I've got my tinfoil hat on, which I love to wear regularly, we might say that, governments and different agencies actually either bought these substances in or legalized certain substances to be able to create within humans a sense of keeping them down, keeping them, not wanting to rise up, not wanting to, because they're trying to deal with everything that they've been through in their life so far. So, yeah, makes a big difference.
Yeah. So it's really understanding is what helps change your perspective. Understanding really why you do certain things, why you feel certain things.
Yeah,
Ultimately, for me, it was I'm only speaking from my experience as well. So it's just the understanding which helped me change my perspective to
yes,
realize like what I was doing to myself, because the body is a temple, and it took me so long to realize that the body is a temple.
yes,
Um, and in terms of Western medicine, it's also I think it's as well. People just put their trust into the doctors, thinking that they're gonna remedy the situation or whatever issues they have. But I've been looking into a lot of Chinese medicine and looking at the
mhm,
way they approach healing compared to the Western hospitals.
yes,
With Chinese medicine, they look at your body as a whole. If you've got an issue, an emotional issue or depression, they look at your whole lifestyle. Like, what
they
are you
do.
eating? What time are you waking up? What time are you sleeping? What
Yeah,
exercise are you doing? And yeah, it's a lot. It's a better approach to look
very
at the body
different.
as a whole.
Yeah, very
But
different.
again, a lot of people are so unconscious to why they behave in certain ways. They just because I certainly was very unconscious when I came to you. I think I was just doing it to tick the boxes at home, just to
I
please
know.
my partner at the time. But in all honesty, I came into it with an open heart and an open
Yes.
mind. Like I was skeptical from the get go. Hypnotherapy, I was like, oh, yeah, you hear all this funky
Okay.
stuff, and yeah, and yeah, because I drove past your house when I reached out to you. Something came into my mind as if like this is not me that's just thought this. It's just come into my mind, and I was like, this is where it all began when I drove past your house, and
Yes.
I reached out to you straight away, and yeah, the journey since then has just been Yeah,
Good.
thank you so much for the work that you
Oh,
do. It's so important, the
you're
work that you
welcome.
do.
You're welcome. You're
Mm,
welcome. But going back to Western medicine, I would look at it, or certainly say that it's not only that people put their trust in somebody, what they're doing is giving their power away to a higher
mm.
authority, as if that person knows more about their soul than they do. Surely that's impossible. That's impossible. And I would like to think that there are still doctors out there. I'm sure there are Western doctors that if they had a choice that they would work holistically. And this is absolutely key. Like you say, when you've been looking at traditional Chinese medicine, all those sorts of things that do work holistically, they look at the mind, body, and spirit. And I know, I mean, obviously, not mine or your era, but when you look back in time, when you had a doctor that looked after all of the family, decades and decades ago, they would do that. Your doctors of years and years ago would have had time, I like to think, to be able to sit down and say, okay, what are you going through? There's a reason you can't conceive. What's going on in your life? Well, I've just had 3 relatives die, something like, well, there's no wonder you can't conceive then, is there? Your body's not quite ready. Just leave it a little while, do the grieving. They would have time to do that rather than just prescribing a pill for somebody.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think, and although I've worked as a midwife for 15 years, I worked within that system and had to get out because of the energy, the frequency, the corruption. And I will absolutely say that, because it is a corrupt service on the whole that has to crumble and it has to come down to be able to be rebuilt. Out of it already, we're seeing doctors that absolutely have their head screwed on. They understand that this system isn't working. And, there will be, and is my understanding, that there are new places being created that offer a different way of healing, you know, um, that
Yes.
incorporate, because ultimately we want somebody with the knowledge. We can say, the Rothschilds took over and they indoctrinated Western medicine and all of that. However, you still want, or I still want, somebody to advise me who has knowledge of the anatomy, how the body works and all of that. But I want them to incorporate energy medicine and, working within parallel universes and all of that. I want them to have a good balance of that, whilst allowing me to make an informed choice, or allowing me to take my power back to heal. And I think for far too long, people have given their power away, putting other people on pedestals. It doesn't matter whether it's a doctor or some religious entity or something like that. But ultimately, that's giving your power away. We have the ability to heal instantaneously. We did before they messed about with our DNA. So when you go back to the point where we were created as guardians of this beautiful planet, we had abilities beyond our wildest imaginations. We could heal instantaneously. We still have that power now. It's just from the offset of being born, where usually, and there are some very fortunate people who aren't, but we're forced into this way of being, where you're registered to the doctors, your register, your birth register, all of this, which takes you down a certain path of your perception of normality. And it's only when you start to, again, see things from a different perspective, or think this doesn't feel right, that you start to look at different ways of being, different ways of living, different ways of looking after your body, and knowing actually that you do have a choice. Often within, I would hear people at the hospital say, the doctor says, I've got to, or I had to do this, I
Yeah.
had to do that. You don't. You simply don't. And you should never feel rushed into making a decision either. So often what I've found, and it's getting better, but often I would be, and not to be offended anymore now, but I would be the last resort, because going down that route didn't work. And so then people would book in, and, I can think of a lady a very long time ago, wonderful woman that had pain all over her body. And she was only a young lady, in her late 20s, 30s. She'd been on all sorts of drugs, medication. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong, but she was in a lot of pain. During the hypnosis session, unbelievably, well, it was incredible. We asked the superconscious, higher self, the soul, what's causing this? Grief. It was grief. I said, where from? Because in a paperwork before, she never said. When she was 14 and her granddad died, this lady burst into tears, and her granddad came through in the session. I said, Granddad, can you help us with this grief? And he just put a hand on her heart. All this is happening in the mind, which of course is where we create everything. And I said, Granddad, can you take this grief, please? Of course I can. Yeah, I'm digging it out. He said, I'm digging it out. This woman jumped off the healing bed. She jumped off, and I didn't clock her. I didn't realise. She leapt off. She went, I just jumped off the bed. I said, yeah, I know you did, because I usually say, come on, jump off. And she said, no, you don't understand. I can't feel the pain anymore. And it was grief. But if nobody had taken the time to sit her down and say, what have you had happen in your life? How would they know? How could and doctors just aren't given, they don't make the time, they're not given the time,
Yeah, it's the lack of emotional intelligence, and then again giving your power away. Like you
Yes.
said a long time ago, we as humans, we had these amazing gifts that all of a sudden have been suppressed. We could heal the energy bodies, we could communicate through telepathy. Telepathically, that's the word. And
elevation, all of those.
And all of a sudden, because of how society is, unfortunately, with the low vibrational foods that we eat, which keeps us really dumbed down, and it's an understanding of the unseen stuff that we don't see. Albert Einstein said, everything is frequency and energy, but people seem to disregard it.
Yeah, they do. And in some respects, I think it must be a lot easier, mustn't it, to just be ignorant to everything, to not, because, like you said when we were talking over text before, when you're ready to hear it, you'll understand it. And before then, you won't. But the amount of times that I will get on my soapbox about something as basic as water, if somebody's coming to me and they have an issue and they've dealt with it emotionally, now you need to take responsibility for the physical aspects. What are you eating? What are you drinking? If you're still drinking fluoridated water, then more for you. We need to get you on a path where you're drinking clean water, and if you can only invest in one thing, that one thing, in my opinion, would be something like a Berkey, or something that would take out the fluoride and arsenic and all the other rubbish that's pumped into our system. And we're told it's safe and effective. Safe and effective, bloody hell, we hear that phrase so much. Run for the hills when you hear that phrase. But and water's programmable. It has life in it. So the one thing that we need to get right is water, and if you can't get a Berkey at that point in time, either getting a distiller and then popping some sea salt, Celtic sea salt in there to give it the minerals and nutrients back, and then holding it with your intention for the day. It's such an easy way to create your reality. Just by putting your intention into the water, or you could write something on the side, whether that's love, whether that's success or whatever, and then drinking the energy of that. It's a very easy thing to do, isn't it?
Very easy, but I think what it is, people want instant results straight away. They want to see the results straight away. Instant gratification. But no, it doesn't work. You got to put the work in. Good things don't come easy. They don't come overnight. I've actually switched to drinking. I've got my distilled filtered water. I've got the tester. I test the water. I drink it out of the bottle because plastic is even more harmful. But the thing is, all this information is there. It's right in front of our faces.
It is.
But it's what you decide to do with it, and how connected and in tune you are with yourself to be able to listen to what your body's trying to tell you. Life is amazing. Life is so beautiful.
It is, isn't it? When you take your power back and realize that you create everything, you're creating the good, the bad, the indifferent, all of that. But how powerful is that to think, actually, I have a choice over how I react to something, how I create, what I choose to bring into my reality. all of that. It's very powerful knowing that at any point in time, and I'm sure I must have said this to you a few years ago, but where we pull out of our drive, it's quite difficult because cars come by really fast. Now, if I'm going to pull out of this fast junction and a car whizzes round and is swearing at me because I've almost pulled out on him, my first thought isn't what a bleep, bleep, bleep. My first thought is, where's my frequency at? Where's my frequency? Because if I'm a vibrational match to that chat, that tells me that my frequency's dropped. So I use that as a tool then to navigate to get my frequency back up. What is it that's made my frequency drop? Come on, I need it back up. And that might just be putting some really good tunes on, in the car, or it might be that I need to think differently about something. But again, that's taking my power back. I chose not to react. I chose not to go back at that person. I don't know what's going on in that person's life. They might be speeding around that corner because somebody's dying and they need to get home. So I don't make any judgment on what they're doing, but what I can change is what goes on within me, Something else I wanted to mention that I kind of have been really full on with clients is that my true belief, when we talk about our innate abilities of healing, of telepathy, teletransportation, all of that. So I truly believe that that we have 12 double helix strands of DNA in our original divine blueprint, before, whichever species started messing about with us, whether it's the Dracos or the Omicron or whoever messed about. And for me at this moment in time, when I'm working with clients, I truly believe that they hold all the light they need within them. They do. It's just that certain experiences, low frequency, they've held that emotion, that energy within them that is dimming that energy down a little bit more than we want. So for me, when I work with clients, it's about getting that darkness, that energy out, whether that's an emotion, whether it's something they've been through, regardless of what timeline or what incarnation that was created on. Removing entities, attachments, AI, nanobots, you name it, whatever is on their system that shouldn't be there, guiding the client to remove those and get those out. I'm also discovering that people have seals on them. Some of them are Templar seals, some Jehovah's seals. That, and from the reading that I've done, this appears to be that certain guardians of the planet put these seals on certain bloodlines to stop them getting through portals and wrecking other universes. Now, that's all good, that was all done. But then, of course, you've got all this interbreeding with, giants and Nephilims and all different races. So then you end up with a species or a race that would have had seals on them to stop them going through the portals, creating hell on other places and planetary systems. But now they may have bred with somebody that wasn't of that bloodline, was actually working of the light and had the ability to get through the portals. But now their ancestors have got seals on them. So what I'm finding in hypnosis is that if I ask the superconscious, and again, I'm not shown these things, but I'll ask if they have any seals on them that are preventing their ascension, that may prevent them from getting through certain portals to go home. And I ask the superconscious to petition the families, the guardian families that place them there, if there are any there, and if it's appropriate, if they've done enough work on themselves, is it appropriate to remove them now? That's not to say that if the superconscious says no, they must stay there, that at the point of transitioning and coming out of the body, of course, they have opportunity to have them removed before they cross over, So I'm finding that there are lots of hurdles that have been specifically put in place. Some of them have been put there intentionally to stop our ascension. Some of them have been placed from a place of good to protect the Earth and other planets. But it's important to work on ourselves to remove all these things so that any reverse coding that we have within our DNA that has been placed there by the Metatronic coding and all of that, that reverse coding is healed and removed, and that we can start to begin to reconnect these double helix strands, you know. And again, from the reading and studying I've done, we need to have about 6 of the double helix strands reconnected to be able to raise our frequency enough to get out and through the portal without reincarnating again and again and again. There have been lots of us that have come here with those 6 double helix already reconnected, almost like on a mission. So for me, my mission being here is to help those people that are ready to heal all of that, to heal those obstacles, when they're ready, to empower them to do that, to remind them. So for me, when I look at you, you are the true divine angelic human, the only angels that exist. You know, you hold the power. This is why the darkness is so steadfast on keeping us down, stopping us ascending, because of our potent DNA. It's our incredible DNA that they're essentially wanting when they create all sorts of programs where they're hybridizing and doing God knows what on parallel universe. But it's important that humans remember their power, that they stop putting other people and things on pedestals and own it. And once they own it and you take your power back, that puts you in a very different position, you know? But it's doing that healing work. It's doing, looking after all of those mind, body, spirit. It's not just doing one section of it, like, well, I look after my body, I go to the gym. That's wonderful. But is up here sorted? Is your spiritual, are you sorted on that level, And the other thing is not thinking that you do it once and it's job done. It's crazy to think it's a constant. And I was born aware and awake, and I am still doing work on myself. It doesn't stop. You don't get to a point where, oh, that's it, I'm done, I'm shining light. That's not how it is. You have a period of time where you think, oh, this is great, and then boom, something else comes up that your soul's like, okay, let's sort this now. And even when you've sorted yourself, now let's start on your ancestors. Let's give them a hand, So
the work never ends. Yes,
exactly. And anybody that says they've got all their shit together, all their ducks in a row, or they've got it all, I know what I'm doing, you think, do you? Because I'm constantly learning, constantly evolving, and the key thing is to keeping your mind and awareness open enough so that what you thought was right and true before, you have the ability to think, you know what, I was wrong. And this is the route now. That, for me, that's where the key lies, having that ability to switch lanes, just and feeling it. Like you say, it's trusting your instincts, trusting what you're feeling and doing, and knowing that that's right. Yeah. Sorry,
paying attention to, no, it's okay. Paying attention to that silent observer who's watching everything.
Yes.
Watching that little brain, that little ego telling you, oh, this is good or this is bad, but you've got that silent observer who's just observing everything. That's the pure divinity of your soul, really, the pureness.
Yes.
Before we move on, I just want to touch back on when you're talking about doctors, you're hoping that some doctors would work using the whole energy system, the whole body, rather than using medicines in the Western society. So I've been listening to some podcasts regarding some Western doctors going over to the jungle and working with shamans, and they're working on because the shamans in the jungle that work with ayahuasca and certain plant medicines, they've been healing people for long before Western society came about. But the only thing was what I've heard through the podcasts that I've been listening to is that they just don't have the paperwork and certificates to say that they're qualified to do this. But
they don't
a doctor here from the NHS he's actually left his practice after 30 odd years working with the
Yeah.
NHS, and he has gone down. He's gone to the Amazon, and he's working with the plant medicines.
Right.
But his Western training hasn't yet crossed over to the energetic healing side yet. But he can see that utilize the both, which gives him a broader perspective on how to heal people, especially the energetic bodies, the energetic systems, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we're moving in the right in the right direction in terms of like people awakening to what's really out there in the world, which kind of it leads me on to talk about the age of Aquarius, because I know we've just moved from the age of Pisces, right? If I'm not mistaken, I've got so much to learn about this. Um, if I'm not mistaken, the age of Pisces was all about greed, profit,
Yeah.
selfishness, and now we're moving into a whole new age, whole new era.
Ah.
So the next 2,000 years, I think, is the age of Aquarius. So it's all about awakening and people doing the good work, and
Absolutely.
so
And sorry, I was
carry
just about
on.
to think of the day today. This eclipse that we're having, this solar eclipse, is
Yeah,
absolutely massive. And astrology is not my strong point at all. It really isn't. I take any information I take, standing on the shoulders of giants, literally. But I absolutely know that this day is incredible. There's been a lot of fear. That's of course, I've not watched news or anything like that for about getting on for 15, 20 years. But the information that comes to me, there have been lots of websites that have been inducing fear, whether it's news channels, certainly out in America, where I think they've closed lots of schools down, and they've been putting more officers, it's military, isn't it, out there on the street, lots of things going on. But for me, this is a new moon. Now, always what I do within a new moon, for me, that's for manifesting. If I want to kickstart something, if I want to bring something into reality, I'm going to use the energy of the new moon. And that is absolutely tonight. Not only that, it's an eclipse as well. Now, of course, the dark forces, those that are trying to scramble about and still create whatever version of their reality they want, of course they're going to use the same energy. That's what they do. But actually, for us, when we work within the light, for want of a better word, we can amplify that intention using this eclipse that's coming. Whether that's literally holding light, whether that's sending out love, whether that's holding the creation of our version of what we're creating on our beautiful earth at the moment. But it's very, very powerful at this point today. I think in the UK, we won't see it. I think it's going to be a huge thing out in the States. Over here,
okay.
I think it's about 8:05 in the evening. So I'm certainly going to be doing some work then from about 7:30 till about 8:30, where I am very focused on positive energies, not tapping into any lower frequency, any lower timelines or anything like that. I think that's really important. And for me, this is the huge kickstart. Of course, we've already entered this new phase, but the golden age, for me, this is where the change happens, the rebirth, the newness, the pushing forward, mass awakenings. If I did the work that I do now, if I did it, 20 years ago, barely anybody was awake. There was it was very much, go and see Yvette, she knows about ghosts, or she knows about witchy things, or she knows about all they used to weird stuff. I hate that word, hate it. It's not allowed to be used in my house, because that's my version of normality. Whereas now, you push forward to 2017, wow, I can have conversations with people. I didn't used to be able to do that years ago. And this will get more and more and more. And I remember, I'm coming up for 50 now, but when I was about 24, it was very much, you either get me or get out of my way. That was my stance. I will not dim my light to fit in. You either understand me or you don't. But I never allowed anybody to push it back on me as if I was odd and weird, because I knew absolutely with every cell of my body that what I was feeling was the truth, was, you know, how society was, how everything ticked, really. And that would be my standard phrase. I know I'm going off topic, but if people said, because I would go to bed and have a download of information and know that this is how it is, this is true. And people would say to me, but how do you know? My standard reply was, how do you not? How do you not? So I wouldn't take on their energy of, well, how do you know? You know, as if, how can you possibly know that? For me, it's like everybody knows. It's whether or not you choose to know that within, you know, and that's a really powerful place to be and to stand. And sorry, it's just me. I know my thought process is all over the shop, but it was just making me think then about the doctors that you were speaking of that are going out to the jungle, to the shamans. Now, I don't want a doctor with certificates. For me, certification is very much a 3D thing. I've worked with many doctors that have been incredible, and I've worked with some that I'm not sure that the certificate they gained was worth their weight in gold. It wasn't, you know. So for me, I would rather have a doctor with the knowledge. I would rather have somebody that's come through recommendation. They have their knowledge, but I want somebody that's going down a spiritual path. When it comes to things like ayahuasca, I see lots of people that are riddled in attachments when they do things like that. That is not to be done lightly. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. I'm saying that if you're doing it, you absolutely do it with somebody that can hold space for you, that is not going to let entities in, because these energies are all around us all the time. It's not just we're trapped within these wonderful bodies, but we are trapped within them unless we choose to come out doing out-of-body experiences and remote viewing and things. But when you're doing something as powerful as herbs, whether it's ayahuasca or, you know, anything else, you are opening all your chakra system, you're opening your energetic field up, and somebody has to be with you that can do it safely. If not, you're going to end up with some nasty dark attachments attached, you know. So that has to be done carefully. And in all honesty, would I trust a Western doctor to do it? Absolutely not. Not in a million years would I have a doctor with his medical certificate, unless he's been raised by a shaman. You know, he would have to really integrate with them, you know. So if I was going to choose to do something like that, I want the shaman. I want somebody that really knows how important it is, that understands energy medicine, that understands the multidimensional universe that we live in. Not somebody that's just dipping their toe in and thinks, oh, this works, I want to understand why it works. That's not enough. For me, we already know it works. I need somebody that can understand the multidimensional universe that we're in, and that can hold space for me and make sure I'm safe, you know, whilst accessing emotions. I guess with hypnosis, that's why I like it's not gentler, because you know, it can be really full on as well, but it's not blasting all your chakras open. It's not blasting your bioenergetic field open. You know, it's in a much more controlled environment, you know. Yeah, sorry, I got off topic.
No, you weren't off topic there whatsoever. Yeah, it's a lot to take in for some people that just are not ready to take this sort of information in,
No.
and to just have that to take that leap of faith, and just to go in, disregarding all the conditioning that's been imposed on yourself, it's a difficult thing. But we are definitely coming into a new age now where people are awakening. But then again, there's ayahuasca really taking front seat in this whole new change, where people think it's something magical that will just automatically fix you
Yeah.
straight away and stuff. There has been, since I think not Prince Andrew, one of the princes who left to go live in Canada. Can't remember his name, Harry or something.
Harry? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so he embarked on an ayahuasca journey, and then all of a sudden, lots of people have been kind of like following suit, but they're just going to whoever and anyone to kind of get them to hold space, and
Yeah.
then there's been a few deaths
Yes.
from
Yes, of course.
people just going into something blindly, unaware, thinking this magic pill is gonna fix
Yeah.
everything. In all honesty, nothing fixes anything apart from you
No,
have to
you're
do the work
absolutely
yourself.
right. Yeah,
Mm,
you're absolutely right there. You really are. I just think we work so hard. So for me, it's about ascending. It's about helping as many people to heal, reconnect their double helix strands of DNA in whatever form they need to get out, to evolve, and to go back to source. Um, Sorry, the bell rang then.
it's all right.
It's really important to do that, but also we do so much work on ourselves. It's important not to get too within the ego and allow either things to come in, whether that's through channeling, whether that's through ayahuasca or anything else. Allow those things to come in. We don't know what energy bloodline they're from, what type of DNA that they've got, if we're going to use that term. What we don't want to do is reverse code on our DNA or to do any damage with the great work that we've already done. So when I'm working, as a witch, I can choose to work with a demon if I want to. Absolutely, they'll help you. And actually, when you look at some what people call demons, they can do some wonderful things, but they want something in return, always.
Always.
Even energies that people refer to as angels. You look in a book of demonology, and some of them are in there. We have to be very careful what energies we're working with, what we allow to happen within our biofield, because the incredible work we do takes us not just this lifetime to do. We've been doing this healing work for lifetime after lifetime. And so we have to be very, very cautious and careful over who we allow, excuse me, within our biofield. And you're absolutely right when you say just taking a tablet or doing a trip or doing something else. It's not a one-trick pony, and it shouldn't be used lightly. Yes, some people can have benefits, but in the same way that if I want to invoke a demon and ask them to help me, yeah, they're more than happy to do that. But what do I have to give in return? And I personally, I don't know enough about ayahuasca to know whether or not, what is it that's happening? Is it an energy that's coming in that's helping to process that? In which case, what do I owe them now? Or is it
Yeah.
just a wonderful, beautiful plant medicine energy? I don't know enough about it. I don't. So I would always people caution to really, really do their research on that and know what they're doing before they do it, so that they don't undo lifetimes of healing work and ancestral work. But if you can do the work yourself, that's far more powerful, far better. But I think everybody's individual. Everybody will
Yeah.
find their path the way that they will, whether that's through medicine of some description. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of, sorry, go on.
Sorry, carry on. Please,
No,
please, you carry on.
I was just about to say, if, and I will say it, if Prince Harry's done it, then that's something I absolutely 100% do not want to do. So my rule of thumb is that whatever they're doing, I will absolutely not do it. So that just speaks
Mm.
volumes to me. Yeah, I'm off that gravy train. No.
Yeah. So like you said, everyone's got their own vice, their own way of getting to
Yeah.
the truth ultimately.
Yeah.
So with my um research and just studying and being open to hearing people's stories,
Yeah.
I find that it's not like the way you do it. People can achieve awakening, and be consciously aware of themselves through breath work, through meditation. There's
Exactly.
so many different routes to get
Yeah.
to ultimately that knowing, that
Yes.
connectedness with back to yourself. Because
Yeah.
when we're born, we get put, all these things get put onto us, and really we're trying to find our way back to ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Back home.
whichever way you do it, through guides and whichever way is fine, as long as you're coming out you're going in with the right intentions and coming out,
Yes. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
mi-
And I
with
think
have met
that's
in
it.
yourself.
Exactly. It's that intention. You have to have
Mm,
that intention, but whilst remembering that you hold the power, not giving your power away to something else or somebody else, you know? knowing
Yeah.
that you've always had the power within to heal, always. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been working a lot and reading a lot of and understanding the energy systems and healing, and you did mention about being extra careful who you're bringing into your own energetic field, because what I find since doing this work myself is, just being in close proximity with somebody who's absolutely negative, you can actually feel
Yeah.
something that's off key there. And we always have energetic exchanges in our daily interactions with people. And I had an incident, not an incident, but an experience whereby I was so hypersensitive to all that was around me, and I just could feel everything, and I knew this wasn't my shit, but it was made me so uncomfortable, and I had to ask. I called for help because
Why?
this is what we do.
Why did you call for
Why?
help? Why didn't you sort
Because
it
I, I
yourself?
I didn't know how to
Ooh.
transmute it, release it, you know.
And who
So
did you call?
yeah,
Who did you
so
call?
a friend of mine who's been helping me with who understands about it. He's actually an energetic healer himself, and I explained to him what happened, and he's like, no, when you take on stuff, you've got to ground yourself and allow it to release it and let in the light and protect yourself, put this bubble around you and protect yourself,
That's
but you have to
it.
learn you
Yes,
have to learn to transmute it. And
you do.
obviously
You do.
I could go to anyone for this sort of information, but like you said as well, we know it all. We know everything. That light within us, our divinity, knows it all. So when a bit
Absolutely.
of information comes to you, you'll know whether it's right or wrong, because
Feel
you
it.
got that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
that feeling.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
was right in calling this person, because he's like, you need to learn how to ground yourself on a daily basis and call your energies back from everywhere that you've been exchanging,
Do.
with the people that you've been interacting with, and it worked a treat. So I've got my meditation techniques that I use for grounding and just to center myself back, bring myself back to my heart center.
Yeah.
Like
Beautiful.
again, this week I've had no kids all week, and so my mind's been everywhere. But as soon as my child came back and I was with the kids over the weekend, I could feel that I was far away, and
Right.
then I had to bring myself back into my heart center to be present for the kids. And it's that awareness of like, oh, I'm not here. Like I need to just
Cheers.
get my
Self-awareness.
breathing techniques, and then just bring myself back, center myself, and bring
Absolutely.
myself
Yeah.
back in the moment.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that spiritual hygiene that you were talking about before, this is important. So you have a choice of whether or not you take on people's energies. So if I walk into, so when I'm working, of course, I always use, there's a pillar of light. So for me, in the reading that I've done over the years, and my understanding is, of course, the white light is the highest frequency, but our bodies haven't held that light for eons. And so, what I do is I bring in 11D, sort of 11.5D light, which is a dark silvery grey, and amalgamate that with the white, which creates a beautiful pale silver light. And I put a pillar around me. So I used to use, you know, balls of white light and those sorts of things. But now I find my practice is that I anchor myself to the earth, and I do this twice a day. I anchor myself within the shield of the planet, and I bring up, I use a Hierophant, which is a six rayed star. Sometimes my superconscious will use more points on the star. So sometimes it's 36, 42, 12, whatever, but never lower than 6. I bring that pillar of light up, and I take it all the way up through the sun portal to Andromeda, where I'm absolutely encased. And then I activate my shield out. Now, I use that when I'm working with clients to protect them. But also, if I'm going, and it's not often, because I don't choose to go into situations where I don't like the energy, so I just would walk out. But if I got myself into a situation that was difficult to get out of, where there's salty ass energy, then I would amplify that shield around me. and I would do that to protect any energy from getting near me. And like, you know, your wonderful friend was saying, you know, if you do take energy on board, and years ago I would have done this, I could hug somebody and, oh, what's that? Like, oh my God, that's not mine. What is that energy? And I am, again, I'm very blessed, and it must be something that my soul, my body is remembered to do over lifetimes, will transmute it. But at first, I didn't know that's what it was doing. I knew I felt awful. I knew it wasn't mine. And then I would feel like a bloop, 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 and this energy would be transmuted and out. And then I understood what my body was doing. So then I could help it.
Urging.
Yeah, exactly. On my website, I've actually got there's a PDF and some free downloads for people if ever they want it, on spiritual protection. You know, often the space that I keep. So it's not just your physical being; it's the space, the energy of your environment. You know, I clear and cleanse it. I use mugwort, sage. I use sound frequency. After sessions, often I'll have a sea salt bath because I'm removing energies. You know, some of the very old books will talk about herbs that you use to remove certain things. So, you know, like Angelica will remove, if somebody is trying to project curses and things like that, you know, you can burn Angelica with the sage, or you just need to make sure it's not just your physical body, but also your environment, you know, when we're talking spiritual protection. Yeah. Because it's not just that we're creating on our individual level, you know, we're co-creating all of this as well. So we're not just dealing with what we're creating, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? All the energies that are coming around are all being co-created. So we're dealing with those as well. Yeah. So it's important. And that spiritual hygiene, really, that is paramount to then allow you to do the work that we're doing. And like you say, the grounding as well, you know, barefoot outside at least 20 minutes a day, whether it's snowing or raining or hailing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's the three aspects of our being that we need to keep, you know, healthy for optimum performance and just a great living. So that's your spiritual health, which can be done through meditating, breath work, just movement, active meditation. People sometimes think meditation, you have to sit there and just,
Oh no,
you know,
get out in the
no,
woods, go for a walk.
go for a walk. Yeah, anything is meditation.
Yeah, walking meditation.
Physical, keeping your physical being in shape, you know, somewhat, just a bit of exercise, and as well watching what we put into our mouths and what we're drinking. Again, it's what we're looking at, what we're listening to, how we're speaking, and there is a lot to consider. But then with practice, it
becomes second nature.
Becomes second nature with practice.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful journey since I met you, you know, and
good.
I'm just embracing all the beauty that life brings to me, that, you know, that I'm bringing to myself. I'm just embracing it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'll find as your frequency rises, then the people that come into your life will naturally have a high frequency. Of course, there may still be, you know, people that are lower frequency, but because you'll have the tools to cope in a better way with those lower frequencies, it won't affect you. That's at the point where you want to have those tools in place, so that literally people could say anything to you, or things could happen around you, and you're choosing whether to react or choosing whether or not to look at it from a different perspective. That's really empowering to do that, you know. And quite often at first there's a knee-jerk reaction where we go to react, and then we think, hang on, I just need to go and meditate for 5, and act afterwards, you know. Or I always think, you know, even with manifesting, if you have something to say, as long as you say it with truth, love, and integrity, and you are not meaning to hurt the person, but you need to say this, then how they react is none of your business. It really isn't.
Yes.
Choose the way they react, But as long as you're coming from a good place, an honest place, then
Yeah.
that's absolutely fine to say that, because it's okay manifesting and we're creating this wonderful reality, but then neither should we be a doormat. So there are times when, you have boundaries, you have strong boundaries. Again, truth, love, and integrity. That's absolutely key.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way myself, and it's to do with my throat chakra not
Not
working right,
saying
but yeah,
in your
not
voice.
saying and speaking my truth. And I
Yeah,
came to the realization that I'm actually, for all the times that I'm not speaking my truth, it's like I'm robbing that person the chance of healing, of something to get to for them to get triggered, which is something that they need to
exactly.
work on. So by me keeping quiet, I'm actually sabotaging myself and making myself like feel worse. At the same time, I'm
Yeah,
also robbing them from a chance of healing. It
feeling
took
that.
me a long time. It took me quite a while to really work on speaking my truth. But like you said, it's
Yes,
got to come from a loving place, good intentions. As long the truth does hurt, but as long as it's said correctly, well,
yeah,
not correctly as such, but
carefully.
use your words
Yeah,
wisely, basically. Yeah,
yeah.
and make sure you have clear boundaries. It definitely makes the world a better place, and it's liberating, and it just does take off the weight off your shoulders. Like, it's gone now.
It does. Exactly. Oh, bless. I can't believe the time. Look, Julio, it's quarter past.
I
We've been speaking for over
know,
an hour already.
I
Incredible.
know.
Incredible.
Yeah, so we can wrap it up now. To be honest, unless you have anything else that you wanna that you wanna say that's important to you, that's close to your heart, that you wanna let everybody know.
Oh, oh gosh. I tell you what's close to my heart is people knowing that everything that they need is within. You don't need to look externally. You don't need any entities, angels, datas, whatever. You don't. Everything you need truly is within. And it's just accessing, um, whether it's a guide, just somebody to help you along the way, not to take your power back, just to point you in the right direction, so that you can achieve that healing, so that you can access those higher levels of awareness in a very safe way. Because I will come across people. I mean, you've had a beautiful awakening, but I often come across people who have a rapid awakening through doing herbs or doing whatever, and all these energies that are around can suddenly try and come in, and people will think, "Oh, I'm channeling such and such, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that." There's a safe way to do things. And I think at this point in time, when we're so close, where this is the lifetime where we get to ascend, where we get to understand this. We've never had this before. And to do that incredible work, so important, but so important that those that are newly awakened, that are just coming around, we were in their position once. So one, it's being non-judgmental, helping to guide them in the best way that we can, so that they can safely access these high levels of awareness and healing. Yeah,
To
I think
enjoy
that's it.
such a fruitful life.
Yeah, absolutely. What to create whatever life they want, whatever life they
Yeah,
want. They can have
yeah.
anything they want. We always have been able to, but we were not raised with that. Well, most of us weren't raised knowing that. And so, how wonderful to have a generation. I know. Sorry, I'm going off on one again. But
It's okay.
my children were raised manifestors, because I was, already in a blessed situation where I was aware of that. So I raised my children to know that they are co-creating, that they are creating their own reality, to choose their words carefully, because they're spelling, they're casting, they're creating, to sense energies. So how incredible is it to have, next generations that are coming through, your children, to be able to teach them this ancient wisdom and knowledge that, to be quite honest, we'd forgotten about. And we've had to remember. But now this is going to become the norm. This will be normal for people to understand this, to create a most beautiful place on earth.
Mm.
and those higher dimensions, harmonic universe 2, 3, 4, 5. It's incredible. Yeah.
It certainly is. What's your website for people to find you on so that they can have a look at what you do and
So
possibly reach
my
out to you?
so my website is Ankh, ANKH, healing.com. And there's, whether it's hypnosis or healing or manifestation tools, all of that is on there. But very happy if anybody wants to email me with any questions or if they just want to reach out. Happy to speak with them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I highly recommend yourself to
Oh, thank
anybody that
you.
wants to start doing the work on themselves. And yeah, I'm absolutely blessed and so grateful. Like, yeah, I feel like I've come around full circle now, and just
I
yeah,
feel like I'm talking to a different man. I wish I'd
yeah,
got
you
a video
certainly are.
before and after.
Yeah, I'd actually seen a video of myself, a picture of myself back then, and oh my God, I was like, wow, who is that person? Just like riddled in so much darkness and just, yeah,
Oh, no.
I've really come out on the other side. But then again, it
Yeah,
was how I went in. I had
absolutely.
a bit of a wrong intention going in, but ultimately my heart was
So,
open. Yeah,
yes, yes,
that's what mattered.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah. Oh, well, it's been absolutely great and a pleasure speaking with
yeah,
you. Oh,
amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so
all right,
much.
my darling. Oh, keep in touch. Bye.